Alright, sweet. Okay. So, in an effort at professionalism, I even wrote some questions ahead of time. But, here we are on a Friday night, trying to do our CRASHDOM VODCAST, but we got no Dom. Last week we had no Dom and no Crash, but this week we've got no Dom, and Dom said, go on without me, get a guest star. So, I went and found one, and this is Ashwin DM, my Pathfinder 2 Abomination Vaults Dungeon Master, Game Master for Pathfinder 2. Very happy that you had some time in your schedule. I know that you are a time traveler from the future, so
that is correct.
That is correct. So it's already Saturday. It's already Saturday for you.
That is correct. Yeah. So
okay.
For me, it's about 11 a.m. at the moment on Saturday.
All right.
So
wow.
I'm a fair bit into the future.
I just can never get over. I'm not very good with science, so like I accept that it exists and I respect scientists and all that, but I just have so much trouble. And I grew up in Italy and had family in America, and had to deal with the whole time travel thing. And even though I lived it, I have a lot of trouble understanding it. But yeah, all right, sweet. So happy Saturday to you.
Yeah, thank you.
Did anybody die in? I guess the game only just started now, but I was going to see if anybody died in Red-Handed Doom because we've got a pretty tough fight tomorrow. But don't give me any spoilers. All right, so you are Pathfinder 2 GM. I actually found you through StartPlaying.games or Start Playing Games, which is a dungeon master pimping service, essentially.
Pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. So, and I'm actually jealous because I started doing paid DMing about 5 or 6 years ago. 5 years ago, I think, and it was very taboo then to be a paid DM, and you almost felt like you were doing something illegal to a certain extent. And I remember just trolling like Reddit and Reddit forums looking for players, and you had the Roll20 looking for group forum, you had the D&D Beyond looking for group forum, and people saw that you wanted to charge for the game, and it was like the most obscene thing that you could have done. And here we are post-pandemic, and it's just another part of life. And to have a service like that helps you connect with players and then helps you handle the finance and stuff, it looks really nice. I myself haven't tried it yet as a DM, and this is my first time trying as a player, but I have to say I feel very lucky because you have been a fantastic DM so far. In fact, if I scroll down this page, I see a wonderful glowing review from Larionis got left for you.
Yeah, that is correct.
That's nice. All right, so I have questions for you. I'm fascinated by paid DMs, and I am fascinated by Pathfinder. And so I want to ask you some questions.
Sure, I know something about both those things. So
excellent. All right.
With either or.
So, how long have you been playing and running tabletop RPGs? Now, I could cheat and I could look at your profile here, but how long have you been playing and running tabletop RPGs?
So, my first experience would have been about 10 years ago, I think, is when 5e came out. And that's actually the first system I played. But that was just a bunch of teenagers like trying to DM and play. And it was like a very interesting experience because none of us knew what we were doing. And like looking back on it now, we weren't really playing D&D. We were just making shit up and rolling dice.
Yeah,
but a lot of that is what D&D is.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But then 5 years ago, one of my friends asked me to play in a Pathfinder game, 1E. They were doing I think it's called Curse of Harrowstone. So we played through that, and then we did the first chapter, and then we ended up calling it quits. But then from there, I got invited to finish off the second half of their Rise of the Runelords campaign.
Oh, yeah. Rise of the Runelord. I heard that's being converted to 2nd edition. Is that...
I'd be very excited to see it. I haven't heard about that.
And 5th edition. They're doing a 5th edition D&D conversion of Rise of the Runelords. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's a wild campaign. Oh, man. Okay, nice. And that's what got you. Is that what was Rise of the Runelords?
Yeah, that's definitely what hooked me. Well, even the first 1E game I played was really fun. We did the first chapter and loved it, and we started the second chapter, and it was like a courtroom drama, and none of us were like, this is not what we were expecting. So it kind of just fizzled out after that point.
Okay.
But the first chapter was amazing. It was like a mystery, like dungeon delving thing.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But then yeah, Rise of the Lunauds was great, and then from there, I think straight from that we went over to 2e and started doing stuff, and that's when I started DMing. I did an online campaign that ran for about, I think, 2 years. We did like a level 5 to 15 campaign, which was just homebrew that I made up.
Oh,
But
wow.
yeah.
Okay. Homebrew all the way to 20. Nice. Okay.
Yeah, so it wasn't quite to level 20, but it got to high level.
Yeah.
And it went on for quite some time. And I really enjoyed running that. I think that's when I kind of clicked that like being a DM is really fun, not just like playing the game, but DMing the game is very fun as well.
Yeah, I think it's a substantially different experience for sure. There's a lot of there's a lot of talk that like the DM is a player too, and the DM the DM is a player at the table and all this. And I do feel that way to a certain extent, but I feel like the DM is playing a much different game.
Yeah, definitely.
It's like saying the coach of the football team is a football player. You know what I mean? Like,
that's a really good analogy.
Yeah. The coach is definitely playing a game, and the coach is definitely invested in the success of the team. But the coach is not a football player. Like the coach, the coach ain't out there on the field.
I think the analogy is you're the coach and also the other team. Is how I would put it.
And you're the network that's like trying to make sure the ratings are good on the games, and you own the soccer club as well, and you might be benefiting from the merchandising if things go well. You're very invested. You're very invested when you're the game master compared to the player. It's definitely a different experience. It's also in a different analogy. I feel you are playing like an RTS, like a real-time simulation game, right? Because you're allocating resources, you're controlling units, you're manipulating all these different moving pieces of the game, trying to steer the game in the right direction, see where the game gets steered, put things back on track, react to things that go badly. You're playing in a weird way, some kind of like solitaire almost. Like it is an asymmetric experience to the experience of being a player, wherein you are taking on the role of one thing in the world, and your job is to make that one thing do well and be convincing and interact well with the other people on your team. But again, I feel like it's such a completely different experience. So yeah, and you decided that. Do you prefer running games to being a player?
I don't think I prefer it. It's just more that I've done it more. I can definitely see myself doing this for like a long time, and like making games or even just running like pre-written adventures is it's very satisfying once you get to the end of it, and even during it. But I'm about to be a player again. Actually, one of my friends is going to be running Kingmaker, so I'm very excited.
Oh, you're going to be a player for a long time. I heard that goes like 3 years. It's like a 3-year-long campaign.
I can imagine it's going to be a long time.
Oh man!
And at the very end of it, I am keen to run it, but it will be nice doing a long-term campaign as a player rather than a DM.
Yeah, I was researching because I want to run Pathfinder 2 campaign, and a lot of people, including people from Paizo, were like, "Well, how much time do you have?" Because Kingmaker is 2 to 3 years with weekly sessions, like 2 to 3 years. And I'm just now coming out of Odyssey of the Dragonlords, which is 2.5 years long, and then a second Odyssey campaign that's going to end up going probably 2.5 years. I started 2 Curse of Strahd games back in November. Those are probably going to go 18 to 24 months. I don't know if I could do another beefy boy like that. So I've been very fascinated by these 1 to 10 or 1 to 11 adventure paths, like the Abomination Vaults, for example, where the average seems to be about 40 to 50 sessions, is what I've researched and heard from people. So, but man, that's that. Yeah, you're going to be a player for a while on that one. All right. Sweet. Okay. So we covered when did you start game mastering. So why Pathfinder 2 specifically? Why is Pathfinder 2 your game of choice?
I think a lot of it starting off was just coincidence. Like the person who really got me in, like brought me into like Pathfinder 1e and then 2e came out pretty soon after we finished our adventure. I think it might have come out during like the end of our adventure. I can't quite remember the timeline. But once I was into 2e, I was in. Just how well the rules integrate and how well everything's balanced, how much character customization there is. And then I only realized this after my homebrew campaign, but the Paizo written adventures are all very good, reading through them. Which I had heard kind of the contrary to that when I first got into 2e. It was like, the adventure path's not great, you could just homebrew a campaign, which is what I did when I first DM'd. But then looking through it now, they're all great. And I'm very glad that I'm running Abomination Vaults now, because it's, for me, one of like the perfect campaigns for me to run.
So, the Pathfinder 1e adventure paths, there was Rise of the Runelords, which was solid, A+ stuff. It was sort of like 5th edition's Curse of Strahd. It was like, nobody could say it wasn't amazing. It was just so good. The issue, I think, with the 1st edition adventure paths was they started cranking out a lot of them. And they started cranking them out pretty fast. You often had, like, different writers working on different books. And so book 1 might not feel like it meshed well with book 2 because maybe a different team was working on book 2. And there was also a lot of filler. Like, I ran Skull and Shackles, which was a 1st edition Pathfinder game. I ran that as a 5th edition game, but obviously I read through all 6 books and converted them over and all that. And there were frequently times where they're like, and now have them do side quests, I guess. Have them do pirate stuff. I don't know. Like, get out. Do you need some side quests? We sell some on the website. It was like, I kind of thought in 6 books you would give me everything I needed to get through this thing. And so I could kind of see some of those feels where it's like, you know, might as well just write your own thing if you're buying these 6 adventure books and they're still telling you that you've got to run extra stuff on top of that. But I have heard nothing but good things about these Pathfinder 2 adventure paths. And seeing how tight the math is and things like that, for starters, that gets me interested in the idea of running a pre-made one, just so I don't have to worry about creating the encounters. There's like 3 or 4 bestiaries, like 900 monsters or something. I don't know any of these monsters, and kind of as a player who's enjoying playing this the system, I kind of don't want to dive in and spoil all the monsters, you know? So, like, there's a lot of appeal there for me to run a pre-made, because I'll just use the encounters that are included, and those monsters will get spoiled for me, but, you know, the other 800 monsters might still remain a mystery for me to encounter when I play as a player or something like that. So, yeah, but I have heard really good things, and then seeing them in Foundry and the quality of the maps and the quality of and the fact that you can get everything on Foundry free, like part of Foundry, and then for like $60 they install official art, pop out, you know, pog tokens for all of the official monsters or whatever. I mean, it just seems like a no-brainer. And then to see the quality of like the starter kit, Abomination Vaults. When I found out that Outlaws of Alkenstar was also done up for Foundry, you know, I just handed over my money, because I was like, that sounds great to have it already prepped, to already have those beautiful maps and everything like that. Yeah. I mean, that's
the relation between like Paizo and Foundry is amazing. They put so much work into it, and it's really paid off. And it's really cool seeing stuff that is like fully made and just ready to go out of the box, compared to some other stuff where it's like and you still got to do your own thing. Yeah,
and you could understand these feels because you said you ran a homebrew online from 5 to higher levels, and you know, that was all you, right? You had to go and find those maps, build those maps, set them up for VTT. It's a lot of work, you know?
It is a lot of work, yeah.
Yeah, like, I literally have a whole stream channel built around prepping, like, VTT content, because there's so much work that goes into it. So having that already done, man. Can you tell me, without too many spoilers for Abomination Vaults, is it all in one? Are you good to go? Like you install it and that's it? You just run it? Or...
Yeah, you're 100% good to go.
Oh my goodness, that sounds real nice. That sounds real nice. As somebody,
all the notes are like where they should be. Like your players walk into a room, you click the room, the notes pop up. It's great. It's amazing.
Wow.
All the prep is done.
Oh my god. So years of abuse from roll from Roll20 where I would pay $50 for the module only to have like no art for the tokens, or like the maps aren't formatted properly, so they they don't load because the maps are too high detail, or any other number of problems. The handouts aren't connected to the right place. So to hear that you don't have to do any cleanup, you just like install it and go, man, that's appealing.
Yeah, it's not even you don't need to do any cleanup. Like all the maps have been like remade. There's like music included. Yeah. It's like stuff that you would never expect in an adventure. Like even just buying the book or the PDF, there's so much extra piled on top of it, and you get the PDF for free when you get the module as well.
That's incredible. Yeah, it was. I'll admit, for a 1 to 10 adventure. For Outlaws of Alkenstar, it felt a little price because I did the PDF bundle with the VTT, and I got all 3 books in advance, and I think it was like $108 or something like that, which is the equivalent of like 2 Roll20 modules at $50 a piece or whatever.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the quality that I'm seeing is just so high that I feel like it's worth it. Like it's absolutely worth it to have that extra quality and not have to go in and like fix everything. So it's very good. Okay, this kind of branches our question in 2 directions. So one, I want to know what the top 3 things are that you love about the Pathfinder 2 system. But I also want to know, as a paid DM, what are the pros and cons of running a pre-con adventure, like an adventure that's done up by the company. So whichever one you want to answer first.
I guess we'll just go with like what I love about Pathfinder.
Okay.
Because I'm always happy to talk about what I love about Pathfinder.
Yeah.
One of the main things is it's kind of a weird thing to bring up, but like balance. And like to a lot of people, balance doesn't really matter. But as like a DM, as you're like running stuff and you're like throwing stuff at your players, you want to know that it's the right stuff to throw at your players. You never need to like hold back your punches if you think something's too hard or like make something hard up on the fly. You know that everything's going to work. Mm-hmm. So if your players like overcome an obstacle, they did it. They did the good thing. And then if they don't, well, it was hard, but it's supposed to be hard. And then well, bad luck, players. Better luck next time. And that also comes into like player like power as well, like the difference between like casters and marshals, and like how like everyone has like a job and not one person can really shine too much.
That's pretty topical given this week's 1D&D UA with the nerfing of the druid and all that.
Yeah,
so,
I haven't looked into it, but I've heard people complaining about the druid, and I've heard people complaining about the druid.
Yeah.
But then, I guess the second thing is like then character customization, which kind of comes under like the balance thing. You've got so many options. You can make whatever you want to just with the rules in front of you, and there's so much variety. And like just having like 2 characters of like the same class, the same ancestry, and they can be completely different and completely unique.
I was kind of overwhelmed at first when I was making a character. I think Chamomile took me 3 hours to build because I was learning the system while I was building the character or whatever. But I was like, when I finished, I already knew like 15 different other ways I could have built that character because there were just that many options, both with gnomes and then with lineages within gnomes. Lineages that you could slap onto gnome, like I made her a gnome tiefling, which is just wild to me that anyone could be a tiefling. And then within the summoner itself, there's different flavors of summoner, and they can go in different directions. And then you add in the archetyping, and now it's just wild. Like, it's absolutely wild the amount of customization that there is. Yeah.
Yeah, you definitely jumped into the deep end playing a summoner as your first class. It's definitely one of the classes that kind of like expects you to have like a basic understanding of like the system before you start building one.
Well, I do now.
You've been playing it very well.
Yeah, yeah. It only took me a few weeks, but I pretty much know almost everything. Sure. Yeah. There we go. I like your first two. We're gonna hear the third one, but I like the first two because you are talking about in that first one balance, and not just balance of like the encounters, but balance of the character abilities as well. As a paid DM, you are an arbiter of the rules, and you're also an arbiter of fun, right? And you are in a different position than than an unpaid DM, right? An unpaid DM, they're doing it out of the kindness of their heart. They're showing up because this is a group of friends. They volunteered to do this. They've taken the burden on by choice. And if they make a bad call, what are you gonna do about it, right? Like they're doing it with the kindness of their heart and their spare time, that sort of thing. They make a bad call. They have an encounter that's too tough. Oh well, we'll roll it back, I guess. I don't know. But as a paid DM, there's that expectation there, right? There's an expectation that you know what you're doing. There's that expectation that you're going to be fair, and you're going to be just, and you're going to follow the rules. And having a good system in place, having a balanced system in place, I think that takes a lot of that pressure off of you. As a paid DM in 5th edition, I have, like, everyone jokes around about it, but we have this thing called the World Patch document, and the World Patch document has grown to be like over 60 pages long. And it's not that it's 60 pages of house rules. It's like, it's all of the rules in 5th edition that say this is up to the DM to decide. And rather than having to just make it up every time, we as a community agreed, whenever the rules say this, go look it up in the world patch to find your answer, basically. So we had to essentially write 60 more pages of rules so that we could equitably and consistently follow them, instead of it being like every other session, well, what happens when you try to do this? The rules say it's up to the DM, and then the DM has to remember what the call was, and then, all that kind of stuff. But, that's why we wrote it all down. But in your system, in Pathfinder 2, for the most part, it's all written down. It's all there. Like, you can just show up and run the game. And that's nice. That seems really nice.
Yeah, there's definitely some stuff where the system like points and says like, this is sometimes up to the DM.
Mm-hmm.
But then alongside that, there's really good tools for being like, this is how you set DCs. What level are they? How should they be trained? Should they be legendary? And there's like these, not spreadsheets, there's like these tables of being like, this is how you decide these things. And that goes over to like, if you're wanting to make like a homebrew like a creature or a monster, there's like very strict like rules for that. And it's like, this is how you do it. Do you want it to be good? Like, it's like, if you want a level 2 creature, this is their AC. If they have a high AC, this is their AC. If they have a low AC. And there's just all these like formulas to follow. And even when you're doing stuff by yourself, it's like set out and you've got like the rules to make it balanced.
Yeah, that sounds so appealing to me. I'm just so tired from like 10 years of 5th edition of answering questions and arbitering rules that I feel should have been handled by the designers during the design process, And so it's so refreshing to me, and I'm really happy to hear that that's one of the things that you like about the system is having that balance there. The other aspect of that balance is, as a paid DM, right, you want to provide an equitable experience to your players. And you can be more confident knowing that unless they play like Witch, they're going to have a pretty equitable experience, right? And even Witch is a fun class and a very flavorful class.
I still think it's weird to talk about that because like Witch is still very fun and very good.
Yeah.
But that it's just not quite as unique and has its own like identity compared to the other classes.
That there's a couple of standouts. There's the sorcerer, there's the fighter, that kind of thing. But that like people are going to make a character and not feel like, why is my special ability that I get to attack a bunch, but that person over there can actually change reality. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's that inequity that we're dealing with over in 5e. See also the druid nerf. That doesn't seem to be as big a deal here, and that has to be very refreshing as a DM to know that you're going to have less of those situations, right? You're going to, I mean, I guess I should ask, have you run into, as a Pathfinder 2 DM, situations where players approach you and say, hey, I don't understand. Why is John's character so much stronger than my character? Why I don't understand. What's going on here? Like, I don't think that's fair. Have you had anything like that?
Not really. The only conversation that's come up is the whole group that I play with just being like, fighter is the best class. And like, I mean, there's just that conversation.
It kind of is, but yeah.
And then it always becomes, if there's a fighter in the group, it's everyone. Like with how the maths works, it's almost like the best way to overcome obstacles is like, how can we help the fighter?
How can we all pile onto the fighter? How can we Voltron the fighter?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which like sometimes isn't like a great dynamic. But if everyone's like into it and like, I always try to call out, like, if the fighter, like, crits, it's like, it's because the sorcerer frightens him, and, like, make it a big deal that the other player, like, caused the crit to happen.
I've heard you do that when we're playing. You always point out, like, because there was a flank, because they caused the flat-footed, because this person was frightened by this other person, this was able to succeed. That's a very good way to reinforce that teamwork and make those support players feel like the star. We were actually talking about that on my Discord today, that it takes a certain mindset to be happy as a support player, because everybody wants to be the quarterback, right? Everyone wants to throw the winning play. Everyone wants to run that ball into the end zone. Everybody wants to shoot the winning goal of the game, right? But like, the people that are blocking so that you can get into position, the people that are passing to you at just the right time so that you can make that shot, those people are as important, if not more important, than the person that actually just makes that final hit in the combat. And so yeah, that's a great technique for pointing that out to people. All right.
Yeah,
cool.
I also think a lot of the like classes that go for like the touchdowns, there's a lot of moments where like they become the support, and like it's a fun dynamic, like switching between like, are you going for the killing blow or are you helping someone else get it? And then you're not always going to be the one going for it. But there are some classes like the fighter where it's most of the time you're the one going for it. But you can definitely build a fighter to just be really good at aiding and just giving people crazy bonuses to their attacks. And that's something the fighter's really good at.
And there are adventure paths that do not focus on combat despite this system having a very strong combat system. So, like, you know, depending on what you're looking for from the system, there's one that's entirely about being in a city and basically socially assassinating people, right? With rumors and spying and stuff like that. And like, you could build a fighter for that campaign, but that's also a good campaign for these other characters that maybe don't shine as well in combat to really have a chance to shine. So I like that. I'm not familiar with all the monsters, but are there monsters out there that it's like, sorry, fighter, you're basically blocked. Like, you're just not going to be able to do anything this fight, and they end up having to support the casters and the other characters.
Sometimes. One of the biggest ones that will come up early is if you're a fighter, you're holding a sword, you're fighting something that's flying. And you're like, well, there's not too much I could do with this situation. I can go stand near someone who does range damage and like ready in action. So if it comes near us, I can take a swing to protect them. But then that's kind of about it. Or you can like stand near them and get ready to like grapple the thing flying towards you. So you can keep it on the ground so other people can come whack it.
Gotcha. Okay. All right, so we got your first two. What is your third item and your top three things that you love about the system?
Honestly, the last one is just Paizo and like how they like release content, how they do like play tests. It's very obvious from like their class play test that like they listen to the feedback that like people are giving them and like evolve on it. So my favorite class in Pathfinder, both in 1E and 2E, is the Magus. And then the play test for Magus was I wasn't the biggest fan. But they practically fixed every problem I had with it on like the official release of the class, which is something so cool to see. That like they release something and people were like, "This is what we want to see improved," and they do it, and it's really cool to see that, and like the amount of content they put out, and like how it hasn't been an issue of like power creep as like content's coming out. It's just more cool content.
Nice. All right. Yeah, I am very impressed with them as a company as well. We've kind of been talking back and forth for like the last 2 years or so, because I reached out to them for Extra Life reasons, and they were like, well, you're a 5e DM, you know, if you were a Pathfinder DM, things could be real good if you were a Pathfinder GM, you know what I'm saying? And I'm like, yeah, Pathfinder kids. I was just asking because, you know, it's for the kids over here. I'm not asking because I care. I'm for the kids. And the contact I had back then is now, Aaron, the guy that kind of headed up this whole like orc thing and counteracting the OGL stuff. And so it's wild to me that this company is small. Like, people see that it is up there with D&D and they assume that it's this huge megacorp, right? Just like Hasbro has WotC and all that, but it's not. It's like a small group of people. They're unionized workers, and they own the product and love the product. You know, like, this is their baby, right? Is this product? Yeah.
It's so cool to see. I think the unionization only happened somewhat recently. It was in like the last year, because I remember there was some issues with it, and that was one of the times where I'm like, come on, Paizo, you can do better than this. And then they did better.
And then they did, really good to see. And then they did. Yeah. And they continue to do better, you know? Like, they're already raking in the money in January from that whole debacle, and then they still go through with their Humble Bundle and donate a ton of money to charity, even though they could have just sold the product at full price. But instead they sell it discount in a bundle, donate the money to charity. Fantastic. This new treasure book comes out. They've got all sorts of accessibility stuff in there without like ham-fisting it. It's not featured in any of the advertisements. They're not like, look at how progressive we are, look at how inclusive we are. No, it's just quietly in there. Like, it's not a big deal, because it's not a big deal. Because it's okay for it to be in there. It's not a political thing. They just threw it in the book, and then it's done. It's just, every day I am more and more impressed with them as a company. So yeah, that's a great reason to like the game. Absolutely. Okay. So that kind of steers us off in the other question I wanted to ask, which was pros and cons as a paid GM of homebrew versus pre-con or campaign. What is your take on that? I see that your postings, all your postings, right, are for pre-con games. So
they're all actually for the same pre-con game, which is Abomination Vaults. It just comes down to a matter of like time and like giving the best experience for like the amount of money that you're charged. I feel like there's a lot less time invested with a pre-ordered adventure, and it can be, considering Paizo's track record, they are very good adventures and very fun to play through. I thought about also opening up a homebrew game, but then it just becomes a matter of like, well, I'm putting more time into it. Okay. Should I be charging more, even though it might not be up to the quality of like adventure written by Paizo? And I feel like given enough time, I could make something that stands up, but then it would, time-wise, I'd have to charge so much more. So I just think the pre-ordered adventures that Paizo makes, just for me at least, fits better as a paid GM.
Okay. Do you feel that there is sort of instant audience for a pre-con? Like, do you feel like there's a bigger audience for a pre-con because people want to be able to have that shared experience? I know personally, I finally agreed to run Curse of Strahd, and I mean, you know, I had enough interest that I ended up running two games for it, and these aren't like normal games. This is like me being like, I'm going to be horrible to you and treat you badly. I'm going to spit in your mouth, and I'm going to burn down your house every week. And I still had enough interested people to sign up for it. And all of the numbers related to the prep for it and all that, much higher than normal, because, you know, Curse of Strahd is the best thing that 5e kind of had to offer, and it had that reputation, and it had that clout, and it had that that shared experience, right? Like, I want to watch somebody else play this. I want to play this so I could talk to my friend about it because they played it. So do you feel like that factors into the Pathfinder ones as well?
I think it does when, like, if you're like an audience member and you want to watch someone play something that you've played before. I'm not sure how much it stands out as like if you're wanting to join the game. The game that I'm playing with DMing for you at the moment is the only it's the one paid game I've got going at the moment. I've got another game that I've got scheduled, but it tends to take a bit of time getting a 2e game up and running on to start playing. I know the majority of the player base is still 5e.
Right.
So it can be a bit hard to get that like going. But then I feel like once you get someone invested in like the Abomination Vaults or any pre-order adventure for Paizo, it's just you're stuck there for the whole time.
Oh yeah, I look forward to it every week. I'm very excited to play. It's been very, very engaging. So, okay. All right. So let's see. You've played face to face, and you play VTT. What's your opinion on both? Like, what's your opinion on face to face gameplay, in person, versus VTT? And do you have a preference one or the other? Why? Like, what's your whole take on the whole face to face versus VTT?
Sure. I think I'm more comfortable doing VTT. I just feel more control of like the situations I'm in, and just I can kind of get more in character when it's just I'm in a room by myself and I'm acting, and I'm not as nervous doing that as I am doing it like face to face with people. Upon saying that, I think doing it face to face is better. It's so much nicer seeing people in person and being like surrounded by a group all invested in the same thing. It's such a great experience.
Okay, yeah.
But I say that saying when I run in person, I use Forge. Like we've got a setup where we've got a TV on the table.
Oh, nice.
And essentially we just use it in person. So like a lot of the benefits I get from playing online, we just do in person anyway. So it's not really a fair comparison. So
that's what we had right before Pando hit. We had a homebrew game, and we had made the table with the sideways TV, and we were running Roll20 through it. And you never had to worry about big math anymore because you just had the computer roll the huge dice. People could still roll the real dice for their own rolls, but if you're fighting a big ass dragon, you don't want to be chucking all them dice and do all that math. You just let the computer kind of handle it. And just the real minis set down on top of the digital maps. Oh, that's good stuff. And then the face to face. There's a certain like contagious emotion when humans are together in person. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, definitely.
We'll laugh during the games online, and sometimes we'll laugh till we cry and until it hurts. But in a lot of my games, I'm like a real stickler for like sound. Not because we stream, but just because I can't stand like background noise and stuff like that. And so we play with like, push to talk and like all sorts of noise suppression and stuff like that. So like a lot of people will ask like, how come you guys are never like cracking up? Like there's so much funny stuff that happens in the games, and it just feels like you guys are so serious, like you never laugh. We're laughing all the time, but like we're muted, right? Because we're not talking, so we're not, or we're laughing, but it's not picking up in the mic because, we kind of like, turn our head to the side and laugh or whatever. And in real life, there's none of that, right? In real life, somebody busts up and somebody else starts laughing, and then you laugh because they're laughing, and then you lock eyes, and then you think about how ridiculous what is happening is, and then you start laughing some more. And then you're crying. You're off to the races with the emotions and everything. And when it's sad, it's extra sad, And when it's awesome, it's extra awesome. And when that 20 is rolled and you needed it, everyone stands up at the table and you feel everything shake because the other people are there. Yeah, like so. I definitely understand that face-to-face thing. But I'm kind of with you. After so many years of VTT, man. IRL, face-to-face, it feels like a lot of work, man. It feels like a lot of work.
Is. Especially if you're not using like some of the like VTT tools. I remember in our Rise of the Rune Lords game, as we started, you'd have like the dry erase like a map, and the DM would lean over and like draw the map
Yep,
before combat would start.
Yep. And you got the minis. I mean, I used to be a miniature painter, so, you know, I want to use those sweet minis or whatever. I used to have the Dwarven Forge and all that, and, like, it's so much work, you know? Everybody sees Matt Mercer. He's got a whole team of people that take care of that stuff, you know? Like, they bring his maps out on, like, a gold platter. Like, in reality, it's a lot of work to set that stuff up. You're talking hours before every session, and then you hope to God they actually go to the encounter that you just built out of hundreds of dollars worth of toys. So, yeah.
Yeah, so one of the reasons I'm excited for my Kingmaker campaign is the person running it. Part of what they do at work is, like, 3D printing stuff. So he's always the guy who has all the minis made. He's a big model painter as well, so he's going to make a bunch of cool stuff. Recently, for a present for the DM who ran Rise of the Ruin Lords, he made like a diorama of like the final fight that we did.
That's awesome. Cool. That is awesome. Oh, all right. So your ideal setting is face to face, but you get to keep all your VTT stuff.
Yes.
Okay, fair enough.
I want the best of both worlds.
So, do you think you could get closer to that if everyone in the group used web cameras? Do you think that would that help at all?
I don't think it's the same experience.
It's not the same because you don't have that in-person, that kind of contagious emotion from being in person. I got you.
And then I think it takes away the kind of like being fully you're just playing the game that you get from VTV, and you don't need to like worry about like them in the game and not like them as a player, if that makes sense. That might not be a mentality a lot of people have, but a lot of time when I'm running, that's kind of how I interact with it when I'm running it.
Well, I like the idea. Like, we don't use any webcams in my games. We haven't for the whole time, and we try not to. I'll run a webcam during like Extra Life or something for the human element to kind of draw in donations and stuff like that. And I'll do a camera during streams for that same reason, to kind of connect with people. But during the game, I very much just want to be I want my voice to be the voice of the NPC. I'll throw up the art for the NPC or something and have the NPC talk. And I want the players who are paying for the experience to be comfortable just sitting there shirtless, picking their nose, eating their dinner because they just got home and it's time for D&D, and they're snarfing on some food, and their makeup's all messed up, or their hair's a mess, and they've been buttoned up all day, and they're just everything's everywhere. I want them to be comfortable, you know? And so that's why we don't really bother with it. But I was curious if you thought that was the case, because I do see a lot of games where people do the webcam stuff, and I don't know if I see the appeal there, you know? I feel like, in a way, I'd be even more sad, and I'd be a little distracted, too, because I'd want to keep looking over at all the cameras to see what everybody was doing, and I think that would maybe take away from my focus on the game itself. So, I don't know. Huh. All right. So what made you decide to do professional GMing? Like, what made you decide to take the plunge, head on over to start playing games, or was that not your first place? Did you try without start playing games first? Like, what was your origin story, as it were, for paid GMing?
So with the start playing thing, I think finding out start playing was a thing, was kind of my like dive in and being like, I could do this, and try to make this something that like I'm the dude who does this, and this is like all I do. So my background is I've got a degree in computer science, and after that I did about like a 3-month just like short part-time job, and then I've had some like drama come up, which has made it hard to kind of like be invested to get like a full-time job.
Fair.
So it was cool trying to find something that was like I can support myself doing something that I love, and that's all it comes down to. Like I just want to do it because I love doing it.
Nice. All right. And you're kind of in a way building a little portfolio here. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we got six.
I'm
six
trying
sessions.
to. Yeah.
Yeah, we got 6 sessions on the books here over on the YouTube. So I mean, we're getting some pretty good numbers and pretty good comments too about the campaign. So you're doing a great job. Like, you're doing an amazing job. And
it's been great to see the support from the community that you've built, obviously, and anyone else who's jumping in who I can't imagine there's too many people who haven't seen you before who have jumped into the campaign.
Yeah.
But even so, reading through the comments and reading what everyone is saying has been really helpful, seeing people enjoy it so much. I've got a couple of people calling out when I make a mistake on rules. I think it's happened twice.
Yeah.
When they've been right. So that's good to know. It's always good to learn.
Oh, well, I mean, one of the things I said when I first started learning Pathfinder 2, because I've been kind of streaming the process, because I'm a terrible reader, so a 640-page book is quite an obstacle for me, and so I've been kind of going through it on stream, and I just said, like, I can't wait for everyone to tell me everything that I'm doing wrong, like every possible thing that I'm doing wrong. But I did have a moment where somebody told me I was doing something wrong, but I knew I was doing it right, and then I got to be the Pathfinder kid, and I got to show them all the citations for the rules, and I was like, maybe it's happening. Maybe I'm leveling up. Maybe I'm finally a Pathfinder kid. I don't know.
I remember reading through that. But yeah, everyone makes fun of the Pathfinder kid until they can be the Pathfinder.
It was kind of a very empowering feeling to be the Pathfinder kid, to be able to finally go, well, actually, like, that felt pretty good. It felt pretty good to finally be able to pull a well actually out on somebody else. So, yeah. I'm kind of nostalgic for when I first started running paid games, because I do a video for my Patreon every week. Oh, well, I started about 3 weeks ago, that it's just for Patreon, blah, blah, blah. But the thing I talked about today on the video was when I started running paid games, and, what it was like trying to find people, 5 years ago to play games, and going to all these places and looking for players and all that, and how to have a service like this now just seems very, very convenient and very appealing. And when I was ready to do Pathfinder, to learn Pathfinder, I was like, you know what, screw it. I'm just gonna go here. And I talked to several people about Abomination Vault specifically, because I did my research and I wanted a game that was crunch. I wanted a game because I already know how to roleplay, and I roleplay enough. I roleplay enough. I don't want to roleplay anymore. So, like, I want to learn the game, right? I want to get in there, and I want to see the system constantly in action. And you may have noticed I'm a little impatient when we're not in the dungeon, because, like, I mean, I'm here. I try not to be. I'm a terrible player. I try not to be. But, like, I'm here to crush monsters and get crushed by monsters and learn the system. And so I was asking people, and I was kind of, checking with them and stuff like that. And I just felt like you took all my questions seriously. You took the time to answer my questions. You made me feel very comfortable about the game, and I felt confident that you could run a good game. But I have to tell you, after that first session, we all hung out, like, in chat after you left, and we were, like, floored. We were so happy. We were so happy about how things turned out. And then just every week, it just gets, like, better and better. And so we're just so happy that you are willing to do this and be our GM for this experience, because we really feel like we hit the lottery there, as far as just, like, grabbing some rando, as it were, and then having them be so knowledgeable and patient and everything. So it's been a really great experience. So I know for myself, like, if I have people that are like, I want to play Pathfinder, are you running Pathfinder? When are you running Pathfinder? I'm gonna be like, don't wait for me. You know what I'm saying? Don't wait for me. Like, head over to Ashwin. Like, Ashwin's running games. So I'm at a point as a paid DM where I have, like, a wait list for every game, and every game I haven't even run yet feels like it has a wait list. And so I'm always looking for other people to to take these players and give them a good and fun experience. So it's just been a great opportunity. Yeah.
I'm really flattered by all the praise, and I'm more than happy to take as many players off you as you want. Feel free to send all of them my way.
Oof, all of them. All right, so Dom's going to be happy to hear that, because Dom is actually in my will and testament. So if I die, Dom has to take over all of my 5e games. So I'll just put you down as taking over all my Pathfinder games if anything happens to me.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
All right, fair enough. All right, so the next question I had here is, why start playing #NotSponsored? So what made you decide to start playing over some other Dungeon Master pimping services? I mean, there are some syndicates out there you could have joined. There's like Dark Galaxy Gaming and stuff like that. You could have joined up with them. So what was your motivation? Were they the first ones you saw, or did you do some?
I mean, yeah, it's pretty much they're the first ones I saw, and honestly, they were the only ones that I saw getting like a push. And I was like, if they're showing up in my algorithm, they're probably showing up to other people as well.
Fair.
And then from there, it was just a matter of like, I'll give it a go, and then if it doesn't like work, I might try something else, or I might go back to coding or doing something else. But it was really just coincidence and just being like, this is my sign to try this out, so I'm gonna give it a go. But I've been really happy with the service. It has been hard to get games going, but all the staff, like whenever you ask the website a question, they do onboarding sessions to kind of give you an idea of like how the website works, what you should be doing as a paid DM, and all that stuff has been really helpful.
Awesome. Okay. Sweet. All right. So this is the last question I had. If money and logistics were not an issue, what would your perfect campaign be like? So if money and logistics, so that means you could have anybody, anywhere, anytime, no budget constraints. Like, what would that look like for you? What would your perfect campaign be like?
So it's weird because I've always kind of running it. I think Abomination Vaults really fits my style of DMing in like games where it's like a big mega dungeon, but you've still got like an area to go and like role play, and it's very like condensed. It's like you're in this region, you get to learn the characters in this region, learn more about the town as you go on. So I would like to write something similar. My current plan is I want to homebrew up level 11 to 20 mega dungeon and have it kind of based off AV.
Maybe it's like right underneath, you know what I'm saying? Maybe it's
it could be, yes.
Oh, very nice.
I don't know if it would be a direct sequel, but yeah, I would really like to write something and have like my own adventure and have it be like, this is the thing I made. People can run it as they want. But then as like playing it itself, obviously, firstly, playing with your friends is such a good experience, having them all in person. But then after that, just like meeting new people and running them through the same adventure, it's a great feeling.
So do you feel, Matt Colville's a big proponent of this, do you feel that running a DM or GM running the same adventure is good? Do you think that is a good thing to do?
I think so, definitely. It's definitely what I plan on doing. Honestly, I think it just comes down to personal preference, right? It's just like, if the DM is like done an adventure and they want to like sign it off and they're like, I'm done with that, I'm going to do something else. That's a very valid way of doing it. But for me, I feel like if you've got a different group keen to go through the same adventure, I'm more than happy to run it through them. And it's actually my preference.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, I'm noticing that benefit myself. I used to be a one and done kind of DM. Like, you know, I did this, we're not doing this again kind of thing. Then the VTT prepping comes in, and my attitude is, I did a lot of work. I might as well use it more than once. So I did get into the habit now of running everything twice. So I try to run everything at least twice. But I know that there's GMs out there that they have like a favorite adventure and they'll run it over and over and over again. I guess my favorite adventure is probably Gardmore Abbey from 4th edition. I would run that in every rule set till the end of time. I'll be in an old folks home. I'll be running it for the robot orderlies at the old folks home if they want to play some Gardmore Abbey. But I feel pretty good then that if your idea of the perfect campaign is a dungeon crawl and you're running it right now, I feel like I feel even more fortunate. That's fantastic. If you are looking for research for making a big ass dungeon, back in 1st edition there was a super dungeon in Pathfinder 1 called the Emerald Spire. I'm not sure if you've heard of that or not, but I believe it is. I believe it goes like 1 to 20. It's a full-on like super mega dungeon. It might be a nice one to kind of plumb the depths of for some inspiration and some ideas. And then, do I have it on the shelf? Oh, I do. Oh man! So if you love super dungeons, this bad boy right here, the world's largest dungeon. Look at how thick this boy is. This is all one dungeon this book,
Mm.
and it's just these huge poster size. It's 836 pages long. It's absolutely incredible. It came out during third edition, and man, it's so fun to hear that, because a lot of people think that like I like role playing, obviously, and I think that role playing might be one of my bigger strengths as a dungeon master. But man, do I love dungeon crawls. I love dungeon crawls so much. Maybe it's because I started with second edition, or just a kid from the 80s and 90s, and that's the kind of computer games we had and stuff like that. But man, I love a good dungeon. I was so excited when I saw Abomination Vaults was a thing, and then to find a DM who also appreciates that type of game and is running it. It's good stuff. It's good stuff.
Yeah, it's definitely, everyone has like their balance between like the dungeon delving and like the RP stuff.
Mm.
And I definitely lean more towards the dungeon delving, but I do really like a dungeon, which you all live in and you're all friendly with people there. So like, and like there'll be a lot of side quests that come up which will give like RP moments that are really fun. But then at the end of the day, if you just want to go in the dungeon and stay there, you can.
Abomination Vaults, with the town being the dungeon town being right next to it, it has that like old school like dungeon crawler feel. Like they make a lot of video games, right? Like I guess the most recent one would be Stardew Valley, right? Where you've got the mines and you go down to the mines, but you come back and you've got the town that you're running errands for, and you find romance in the town, and you're building up your base of operations, and you take some time to craft, and then you go back into the mines and they go deeper and deeper and deeper. That whole dungeon town ecology, I could definitely see it, and I could definitely kind of feel it in the game. And so I'm very curious to see where things go with that, because I know that Pathfinder 2 is very proud of its crafting system. And then with Treasure Vaults, I guess there's been a few updates to the crafting system. So I am curious to see how the pacing of the adventure goes. If we just hit a certain point in the dungeon where it's like, okay, but now you rest. And then, you have that time before like the next book or whatever of the adventure where things like everybody calms their tits down for a little bit and kind of does some crafting, and then you kind of go back in. I'm very curious what the pacing is, because unfortunately for me, I chose Outlaws of Alkenstar as my adventure that I want to run, and they're just like, so there's really not any crafting, because this is a fast-paced, breakneck speed adventure that you don't got time to do nothing except more crime. And I'm like, well, I mean, that's definitely the kind of adventure that I'm known for running, so I'm okay with it. But I'm also like, damn, I would have liked to have learned more about the crafting system and stuff like that. So I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah,
how it goes.
I do think the crafting system in 2e, it's like there and it works.
Mm-hmm.
It is one of the weaker systems in the game, because
Really?
it's essentially one of the things. It's essentially there so if you're in a situation where you don't have access to buy stuff, you can craft it. But if you're in a town where you can buy everything, there's no point to crafting.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. I wonder why they don't like point that out more in like maybe they do and I just didn't read it, but it feels like it'd be good to know going into it when you're building a character, right? Like is there, like all they say is check with your GM to see how much downtime there'll be in the campaign. That's like kind of the only thing you get on that. So, interesting.
Yeah, so it will come up a lot, because like for example, in Abomination Vaults, Atari is used to having adventurers, so they have like up to level 10 consumables, but they don't sell permanent items. They don't sell permanent items.
Okay.
So if you ever want to buy a permanent item, you need a crafter, because you can't get it unless you want to leave town and go somewhere else.
Oh, and I guess in Outlaws, you're in like a big ass city full of like crafters already, so probably everything you need is already on tap. And okay, that makes sense. All right. Well.
Yeah, but then with Alkenstar, the issue is like, well, if you ever wanted, you can't really go to those shops, or you have to go like to the seedy back corner shop.
Oh yeah, but crime drama. So yeah. Fantastic. All right. Well, that takes us to the end of the VODCAST and the end of all of our questions. Look at how well that was planned out. It's fantastic. So do you have any closing statements before we close it up for the night?
I guess I'm glad you chose me to be your DM. I'm glad you guys are enjoying the adventure so much, and I've been enjoying running it. Always happy to come on if you're missing a co-host. If you want to talk about anything else.
Man,
But,
don't let
yeah,
Dom
it was
don't
great
let
being
Dom
here.
find out. He's gonna start going to work functions all the time. Jeez, all the time. And then I'll put our campaign. I'm throwing some stuff into chat real quick. There we go. All right, sweet. Well, I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I'm looking forward to Tuesday. And I'll see you around the Discord and all that. Thank you so much for taking time out to talk with me tonight and answer my questions about Pathfinder. I would love to schedule another time to talk to you when I finally start digging into Foundry and setting up my Outlaws campaigns because man, I'd love to pick your brain for tips and tricks and all that. So for sure. All right.
Yeah, sure. I'm looking forward to our session in the week. But yeah, I'll see you around.
All right. Thanks so much, man. Have a good night. And to everybody who hung out in chat tonight, or everybody's watching the VOD, definitely check out our streaming series of Abomination Vaults, and know that Ashwin is looking to start another Abomination Vaults. So hit him up on start playing, and I'll throw all those links into the description as well. All right. Night, everybody.
See you guys.
And then to the